What's up, everyone? My name is Angela, but you probably know me as full-time dance teacher on Instagram, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so happy to be here and to be able to make more in-depth content for you about teaching dance. I love making content for you guys on Instagram, but a lot of times I feel like it's just like scratching the surface. So I'm super excited to be starting this in the new year. A few weeks ago, I put up a story on Instagram where I had you guys submit me your questions, anything about teaching dance. So in this video, I am going to answer all of those for you. Number one, how do you navigate gigs and teaching and how to not let one part take over? I am a full-time dance teacher, but I do also still dance and perform part-time. And in terms of not letting one take over, I have to prioritize what allows me to live sustainably. Teaching pays more than performing does. So therefore, that's the work I prioritize, and teaching comes first. The company I dance with only rehearses on the weekends, and all the other dancers also have other full-time jobs. The only time it gets a little bit tricky is when we have a show and I have to balance my regular teaching schedule with tech week. But in those cases, I might have to take a night or two off of teaching, but all of the schools and the studios that I work for are very understanding of that and supportive of the fact that dancing is still important to me. Have you ever lost your passion? Not really. Ever since I was like 12 years old, I knew that dance is what I cared about the most and what I wanted to be doing with my life. Even the one time in my life where I did stop dancing for a little bit, it wasn't because I lost my love for it. What I will say is that my passion and relationship to dance has evolved over time. At first, my passion was performing and choreographing. I didn't like teaching. And then I totally fell in love with teaching, and that was the only thing I did. And then I went back to doing both. And then I started talking about teaching online, and I'm super passionate about that now. So yeah, that's what I would say. It's just evolved. What's the funniest thing a student has asked you? So I'm not sure if this is like number one, but it happened like pretty recently, a few months ago. So it's in the forefront of my mind. I was teaching a ballet class, middle school ages, and we were talking about, or I was talking about like the placement of their foot and their heel when they were pointing their foot. And one of my students asked, "Do you have bones in your foot?" And I was like, "Sure do. But no, it was good. I was like, okay. And I pulled up my computer, looked up, like bones in a picture of bones in your foot. And I showed the class. We had a little anatomy lesson. And I think it definitely helped them understand the correction I was trying to give. Most kids are visual learners. So I'm so glad she asked that question. Did you still dance while you had an office job? If so, how were you able to manage both? No, I did not. For those of you who don't know, I did have a 9-to-5 office job for about a year, and then I got laid off when the pandemic happened. I am going to talk about that particular experience more in a future video. Basically, I did not have the energy to dance while I had that job. I was way too drained every single day. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to switch to teaching full-time, was because I still wanted to dance. I wasn't ready to give that up yet. And I just felt like it would be easier to have all of my work under the umbrella of dance. I know lots of people have 9-to-5s and jobs unrelated to dance while also teaching and dancing too. But for me, I've just found it a lot more manageable to do it this way. I feel like more or less my brain is in one place, and that my dancing inspires my teaching and vice versa. Where do you find industry standards for setting your rate? There is no such thing as industry standard when it comes to teaching dance, unfortunately. At least I can speak to the United States, dance teachers can be getting paid anywhere from minimum wage to over $100 an hour sometimes. It depends on a lot of different factors. Something I recommend is talking to other dance teachers in your area, seeing what they're getting paid, what their rates are, because it can vary depending on where you are. It will also vary depending on your experience and qualifications. Obviously, more experienced dance teachers can require higher rates. Now, what I will say is that dance teachers teach a lot more than just steps in the studio. We spend a lot of hours working off the clock. We typically don't get benefits like health insurance or sick time. So there's just a lot of different factors that you have to take into consideration when you are deciding what is appropriate compensation for your experience, qualifications, and scope of work. How can I help students internalize that it really is okay to sit out when they're injured? Yeah, this is going to take time. Simply just explaining to them that the fastest way for them to get better so that they can return to dance as soon as possible is allowing their bodies to get the rest that it needs. If they have an injury where they really do just need to be sitting out, you can't really modify the class material for them, then I just think communicating that to them and also validating their feelings. It's super frustrating to be injured and not be able to dance. I think that most of us dance teachers can probably relate to that. It's also important to, throughout the process, make sure that they still feel like they're being seen by you and are included in the class. Something that you can do is to, give them little assignments while they're watching, such as taking notes for you, sort of like a teaching assistant role, or have them, write down the corrections that you're giving to the class. Students learn a lot by watching. So, you can just explain to them that this is going to be a different learning experience. They're not going to get nothing out of this. Do you encourage kids to choose solo duo songs themselves, or do you pick them? I don't really encourage it. I prefer to pick the music that I feel like is going to be a good fit for them and that I am also inspired by. I'm very music driven in creating choreography, so that's really important to me. What I will do is put together a list of songs that I like for them, and then we'll listen to them all together and then pick based on what they like best. So yes, I do take their input into consideration. Now, there have been instances where students came up to me super excited about a particular piece of music, and I was like, sure. One less decision I have to make. So there's always exceptions. How do you negotiate your paycheck when you're already working for the studio? I love this question. If you have been working for a studio and it's been a while since you've gotten a raise, maybe you've never gotten a raise and you feel like you deserve one, this is what you're going to do. You're going to reach out to the studio director, whoever the employer is, and ask for a meeting to go over your performance. Hi, so-and-so, I would love to set up a time to talk to you about how you feel I've been doing, how my teaching has been going, etc. Now, before you go into that meeting, make a list of everything that you feel like you've contributed to the studio, what your successes have been, what your strengths have been, and be ready to speak to them by providing examples. Students really enjoy my classes. My classes are always full. My dances do really well in performance or in competition. I've been really reliable, whatever these are for you. Once you're in the meeting, ask the person how they feel about the work that you've been doing. Basically, you want to get them to acknowledge and say out loud the good things about you. Then after that, you can be like, awesome, so glad that you feel that way. You can bring up the other points from your list that if they haven't been brought up yet. And then after that, you can go in and ask for your raise. Start a little bit higher than the number that you really want so that you can give yourself a little bit of negotiating room. It's tough to find good, reliable dance teachers. Your employer is not going to want to go looking for another teacher if they are happy with the work that you've been doing. So it's always worth it to shoot your shot. I do teach more on setting your rate and negotiating, among a bunch of other things, in the Dance Teacher Intensive, which is my online dance teacher training program. Just FYI. How do you navigate leaving a toxic studio when you love the kids and don't want them to feel abandoned? So I'll give you my advice and then I'll tell you what I've done. There is this expectation that we put on teachers of all kinds that we need to always be putting the needs of our students, because they're children, above our own needs. And what I can tell you from experience is that we cannot do our best work for those children if that is always how we're operating. You can love your students, but at the end of the day, this is your job and you need to put yourself first if you want to do your job well. Teaching is hard enough as it is. The longer you stay in an environment that is unhealthy for you, the longer you are preventing yourself from finding one that is healthy. Now, after saying all that, I have been in a situation where I wanted to leave a particular job I was at, and I stayed. The students were really wonderful, and I was working with several of them one-on-one on choreography stuff. So yeah, I didn't just want to like peace out in the middle of the year. So this is what I did. I looked at the numbers and I decided, okay, I'm getting paid decently enough. I can put up with these issues for the time being and just get them to the end of the year. If you feel as though you can give yourself a timeline that you feel better about, where, there's also something in it for you too, then do that. If you truly feel like you are in a super unhealthy, toxic situation and you didn't sign a contract, you have to decide what is best for you. I know it's so tough when you just love the kids and you can't really talk to them about, what's going on and the reasoning behind your decisions, but it is what it is. Okay, so I did receive more questions, but I think that's good for right now. I feel like I've yapped enough in this video. I will do a part 2 where I answer the rest, but I think that's good for this week. If you're interested in the Dance Teacher Intensive, which I mentioned earlier, my online dance teacher training program, information on that is going to be below. Make sure you also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am putting out weekly videos just for dance teachers every single week. Talk soon.